I do not enjoy playing Handel that much, but I do that for him, and then he also ends up singing German Lieder for me, so it's all good. Like, I'm very much a pianist, and I'm still going to be doing all of that. It's just, I am kind of in an incubator right now, so I'm kind of like in a cocoon. I'm
Yeah.
gonna reemerge with all of that. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
On the Dallas Opera Network, you're listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, this is America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I'm your host, George Cederquist, joined by Weston Williams. And, okay, I guess that's it. All right, this week, fresh from conducting Opera Next Gen's night trip, Donald Lee III goes inside the huddle with Oliver to talk about the show's virtual world premiere and about being the inaugural conductor for the Ryan Opera Center. And I think Oliver gets him to talk about being one half of opera's next power couple. Plus 2-minute drill. It's a drill double header. Everything you need to know from Operaland in the past 2 weeks, plus our hot takes on those stories. Look, if you're watching on TDO, Dallas Opera Network, subscribe to the podcast on Stitcher. Just favorite our show on Apple Podcasts. You're going to get the whole thing. You can email us your hot takes, operaboxscore@gmail.com. You drop us a line, you get an OBS beer coaster, and you get an OBS lapel pin just for sharing your thoughts.
For free, George?
For free.
Amazing. That's like a perfect Christmas gift.
Weston Williams.
You give it to someone who's never heard of our show before, doesn't listen to opera, doesn't like sports. Just say, Merry Christmas, I thought of you. And then all of a sudden, you've got a sports fan, you got an opera fan, you got a podcast fan, you've got a George's Beard fan. There's literally no downside to doing that.
It's the dream, man. It's the dream. Look, don't call it a skeleton crew tonight. I'm kind of liking this vibe, actually.
It's kind of nice. I mean, I will say I'm a little jealous that they all decided to take their Christmas vacations a little early, but it's okay. Some of us have to work for a living, I
get it. Bears and Packers working on Sunday night football. America's game. It's the only game on Sunday nights. All the other football games, of course, happened during the day. Bears off to an early lead and then failed and collapsed in the second half against the hated Pack.
A bad day indeed. Well, it's probably going to be a good day. There is a potential, George, here for my Tide and your Wolverines to come crashing together and the Wolverines to be just absolutely annihilated. That's my personal bet. That's what's going to happen. Because once that tide is rolling, George, when that tide is rolling, you can't stop it. It's just going to roll right over you, just like, psh, that's the tide going over you. Psh, that's what we're talking about. We say roll tide.
You make my blood boil in a way that no one else does. It's true. The Tide and the Wolverines would have to win their respective playoff games, and then they would meet in the national championship. If that happens, the OBS is going to go bonkers, and I will leave it at that. Let us talk some opera.
Huddle up. Let's go inside the huddle.
On December 11th, Donald Lee III conducted the world premiere of the one-act Night Trip by composer Carlos Simon and librettist Sandra Seaton. But he didn't conduct in front of musicians in person. He conducted in front of his webcam. This was for Opera Next Gen, the company founded in 2020 to discover the next generation of opera talent with equality, equity, and inclusivity at the forefront. In order to ensure that opera will continue to thrive for generations, Opera Next Gen has widened the scope of live virtual performance.
We did Night Trip by Carlos Simon, the composer, and Sandra Seaton, the librettist. It was an incredible challenge, but we produced a really great product. So it was a virtual opera in which everybody was in a different place, almost a different state for everybody, and we were just on this audio server called Jamulus, and we're using Skype, and the tech team is mixing everything together, and I'm conducting behind a microphone, keeping everything together, and somehow timing these track entrances correctly. And they had scene changes, and I had never seen anything like it. When I saw the dress rehearsal video and finally saw what it was that we were doing, it was really impressive.
So you're saying that you were conducting from your own computer and there weren't live musicians in front of you?
Right.
Oh, so how did you guys deal with the delay?
Jamulus.
Okay.
So I recorded the performance track myself, and that way I could know exactly what all of the rubato was going to be, know how long the fermatas were going to be, all of that good stuff. And that is what we all synced to. And then I was able to basically translate what a gesture would be into the sound of my voice, and really quite effectively cue entrances and, just manage everything musically from behind my computer in Chicago while everybody was, who knows where.
Wow. Well, it already happened, and you just told me that there's not there isn't a plan for a repeat of this performance.
No, but there are going to be more performances this season of other things, and it's a good organization. Just follow and see what's on the horizon.
Are you engaged for future performances with Opera Next Gen?
Not yet, although I did tell them, like, now I know how everything works, I would be stoked to do another one.
But you also would be stoked to just conduct an orchestra, like, in front of people, right?
Of course.
So that brings us to your role at the Ryan Opera Center here in Chicago, at Lyric Opera Chicago. Can you talk about, applying for that position or being headhunted for that position, and so far what it's been like for you?
Sure. So, I did apply for the position. I will say, I had met Craig Terry before, and this was in Tennessee.
Accompanist to the stars.
Indeed. He's always doing something that is just so incredibly cool.
He's like in Russia playing Venturiza with Joyce DiDonato or something.
And then like 2 weeks later, just like, oh, Argentina, and it's sunny, and you all are cold. But I met him because he was judging a Met competition that Kimon was singing in. And I remember just having a really short conversation with him, asking him about, solo piano versus collaborative piano, and kind of feeling if one has to choose and whatnot. And next thing I know, he's talking to me about this position that Lyric is creating. And I was just really happy that a lot of people in his corner also were in my corner, and that the application process went through. I'm so glad that I had friends who were able to form a ensemble in the middle of a pandemic for me to conduct them, so I could give them a conducting sample. And everything ended up working out, and I'm so grateful to be there now. Well,
maybe rewind a little bit, because I feel like looking at your, CV, that you were on this path to being like a concert pianist whose emphasis was maybe decentering dead white men from the repertoire, at least from your repertoire. Where does opera fit into that?
Okay, so that's a question I feel like so many people have. So I have been working with singers since I was a child. Okay, so ever since I was even in elementary school, I had been playing for my friends as they sang. Like, in first talent show that I ever did was at my elementary school. I played for a trio of my friends. I played one of the songs that we did in chapel. I ended up actually singing, and that I was also a boy soprano and sang in A Mall in the Night Visitors when I was 9 years old. And then I fell in love with Cecilia Bartoli just as a YouTube sensation when I was in high school. Then I get to undergrad, and that's when I, need a little extra rent money. And that's when I started accompanying some friends for their voice lessons. And that quickly turned into me being in demand and playing for at least 12 singers per semester until I graduated. Then, if you're looking at my CV, then I went to CCM, Cincinnati Conservatory, for my master's, and that is one of the best schools for voice in the country. And so I got to work with fantastic singers there. Allison Anderson, Amber Monroe, a rising star soprano, Skylar Vargas, rising star baritone. Like, those are some of my great friends. I met Victoria Okafor. We got to work with them. And then I was a professor at Kentucky State University for 3 years. I was also the staff pianist there and coached all of those students. So voice has been right in tandem with what I've been doing my whole life.
Good call. Bad call on Opera Box Score.
Two-man show on the OBS this week. I had a blast, Weston.
Oh yeah, me too. It was a good time.
Just you and me, the skeleton
Just two
crew.
bros sitting in a hot tub.
Just talking some sports and opera and just getting ready for the holidays. Good call, bad call is how we wrap up the show every week. Weston Williams, take it away.
I had my, well, it's kind of weird to say because I sit on a panel. Everyone on the panel has participated in a specific opera production in some capacity, whether they directed, as George did, or sang in it like everyone else. I am glad to say I made my opera debut last week.
Did you really?
Yes, in Chicago Opera Theater's Becoming Santa Claus, where I was a member of the Children's Bell Choir through a contrivance simply too complicated to get into here. But I was child number 6. I was in the back, playing my bells, a real opera. I've done it. I've peaked.
I was going to say, man, like, you weren't an elf, right? Because that just, I mean, I can suspend my disbelief. But...
2 elves in a trench coat, actually.
Yeah, good call from me. Of course, we made a big deal about Terence Blanchard's opera opening the Met season. He will be back in 2023, along with the piece he wrote with Michael Christopher, the opera Champion, the boxing opera. That was
so
at Opera
excited.
Theater of St. Louis as well. Back in 2013, Jim Robinson directing the production. Man, if you are OTSL right now, you got that pipeline through Terence Blanchard to the Mets. That must feel great. Terence Blanchard just all over the place. So fantastic. That's it for this week's edition of America's Talk Radio show about opera. Our announcer's Norm Woodel. He's at normwoodel.com. On Facebook, you just search for Opera Box Score. Twitter, Instagram, at Opera Box Score. And please help us deepen this bench of listeners. Like and share our social media posts. Email us your hot takes. operaboxscore@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Get an OBS beer coaster and an OBS lapel pin just for sharing your own hot take. Again, subscribe to the podcast. It's on Stitcher. Just slam that favorite button on Apple Podcasts. Our creative consultant is Oliver Camacho. Our audio and video editor is Weston Williams. For our teammates, Matt Cummings, Ashlee Hardgrave, I'm George Cederquist, asking you to continue the conversation about opera as you don't panic about your holiday shopping. We're back with an all-new show. Wednesday, January 5. Yes, we're taking 2 weeks off for the holidays. We're back. January 5, we're going to take a look at the best of opera from 2021. Plus, you're going to get more opera headlines, more hot takes, and probably more failed New Year's resolutions.
Couldn't even last a week.
Join us.